Welcome to the very first episode of Soundtrack to Success, where we deep dive into making music, having a career, and all things self-improvement. I am your host, Brownn, and today we'll be diving into the basics. The mindset that you need when stepping into the studio starts way before. Having the right mental approach is key to unlocking your full potential. Let's face it, the studio is intimidating. It's loud, it's busy, and often very crowded. But it can also be great. It can be a great way to show your skills as a producer or an artist, and it could launch your career. So how do we get in that mindset? I'm going to give you my best 6 tricks to boost your confidence, step into the higher version of yourself, and trust me, I've been there. I've had panic attacks, I've cried, I've been stressed, but I've also had some of the best times of my career. I've met the best people, I've networked, and I've become such a confident version of myself. Number 1, creating dialogue. Creativity can only thrive in an open environment. And as Hans Zimmer once said, the studio should be seen as a laboratory. When you walk into the studio with the idea that you have to make the best track possible, do everything right and have a set plan, you are putting hindrance on your creativity. Needless to say, endless pressure on yourself. Instead, view the studio as a creative playground. Think of it as an experimentation rather than a set rule. Think of it like a puzzle. You don't always find the right pieces straight away. And if you do, great. If you don't, also great. You have to remove that pressure because for the artist, you're there as a friend. You're not there as a manager or a marketer. You are there to make something that doesn't exist. You have nothing to base it off of. You have nothing to go of. So how can you put pressure on something that doesn't even exist? Okay, so you're in the studio, it's working, it's going well. Okay, so how do you keep the ball going? How do you keep the creativity continuing? That brings us to our next point, setting challenges. I want you to think of every challenge that you've ever done in your life, any hard time. This is it. This is the end. And was it? No. I don't mean to call you out like that. Challenges can be the best way to spark creativity. Going back to the puzzle analogy, sometimes things don't fit at first glance. For example, try instruments of different genres. Somebody who does this great is Leve, who blends jazz pop with bossa nova to create her unique sound. By suggesting something unconventional, you may just find the next thing that you're looking for. And you might think, okay, we've got the creativity, we've got the flow going, but how do I figure out what to do? What do I add in? How do I know which puzzle pieces to even pick up? That leads us on to step 3, inspiring exploration. Inspiration comes from when you step outside your comfort zone. This week for your homework, I want you to go outside your comfort zone, purposely and meaningful. Whether that's attending live shows, art galleries, new stimuli will encourage fresh perspective. And remember, success in the music industry is not about knowing your skills. It is about being able to communicate them. You need to know what you're doing so well that you can tell somebody inside out, back to front, have different topics to talk about within that section. The more fluent that you are in any ideas, the more value you will bring to a project. Which leads us on to section 4, embracing failures. Dun dun dun. Let's talk about something that we all fear, okay? Me especially, right? Let's talk about failure. The truth is, failure is something that we cannot avoid. It is inevitable. As much as we try to plan, as much as we try to discuss things with people beforehand, sometimes things just go wrong. I always like to tell my artists that 40% of the time, things will go wrong. You have to shift your mindset from this black and white thinking of things are either good or bad. Because in music, it's a grey spectrum. People like all kinds of things work. Some things on social media work that people don't like. Some things work on social media that people love. One of my favourite quotes on Pinterest is, my vision board is, only way you can fail is if you give up. So I don't care if all of your equipment stops working. You have to keep going. You have to keep working as hard as you can to find a fix. Which brings us on to segment 5, providing resources. This ties into having many strings on your bow. The more knowledge you have in different areas, the more you have to offer. For example, if your mixing desk stops working, are you going to sit there and regret not looking up those new mixing desks? No. If the microphone stops working, Are you going to sit there and regret not looking up all the different mics that have come out recently because you wanted to go and sit and watch Netflix instead? Absolutely not. We are going to put in the effort now, and we are going to have a look at all of the different areas within our section. So for me, it would be music production. But within music production, there is so many areas to explore. As I said, microphones, streaming services, sync placements, different types of musical instruments. What if I'm in a session with a guitarist and the string breaks? I need to know, as the producer, how to quickly go in there, efficiently change the string, and go back. That's a 5-minute tutorial on YouTube that I could have watched, but you have to stay in that right creativity mindset. Having said all of this, breaks are 100% necessary, which leads us on to number 6. Take breaks when you need them. But as I say this, I also mean that when the singer has been in for 5 minutes and they are not feeling very well, let them take a break. 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all they need. Go get a honey, go get a tea. Don't be afraid to use the time in the session to what you need to use it for. Your mind is an organ, just like any other part of your body, so treat it like one. Athletes don't run forever, and they need rest to perform at their best. And so do you. And also, it will give you a chance to do any admin work. That's all for today on Soundtrack to Success. Remember, the studio is your playground for you to use at your time. It's your laboratory to experiment, to grow. Approach it with the right mindset and you will be amazed at how much more productive, how much more charismatic, and how much more open everyone will be to creating this great environment. Make sure to subscribe down below and tune in next week for the next episode. Until then, keep creating and most importantly, keep believing in your journey. Once again, my name is Brownn. You can find me across all social medias under Brownn, and this has been Soundtrack to Success. See you next time!